Welcome to OREMC Plugged In, a podcast about our co-op, our community, and our shared connections. I'm Michele Hutchins, your Member Communications and Marketing Coordinator. And joining me today is my colleague, Dewayne Johns, our Member Services Manager.
Hello.
And Michelle Maddox, Program Manager with Ferst Readers.
Good morning.
We're going to talk quite a bit today about Ferst Readers, but to just provide a backdrop for kind of where our conversation is going to go, I did a little digging before we came today, and literacy is obviously the focus of where we're going, particularly childhood literacy. But just to put something in perspective, in America, we have a 79% literacy rate. In other words, 79% of all American adults are considered literate. But I was surprised to find that when you dig down a little bit, I think it's 64% of those are reading at less than a sixth grade level. And, you know, as someone who's been in the mass communications industry, you're always taught to gear toward eighth grade. So that's kind of an interesting little statistic because you're not hitting the mark in that case. And then secondary, when you go down a little bit further, children, only 35% of kids are proficient readers in fourth grade. And I know one of the things that we're going to talk about today and focus on is that much of the brain develops. About 85% of the brain development occurs between ages 1 and 3, which is really what your program is geared towards. So, Michelle, tell us a little bit about you, Ferst Readers, and how you got involved.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for being a strong supporter of Ferst Readers. You've been doing that since 2016, so we appreciate that, and thank you very much. Ferst Readers is spelled F-E-R-S-T. It's actually not misspelled. It's after our founder, Robin Ferst Marhaver. She started the program back in 1999. We were initially started with the Dolly Parton program, and we swapped over and branched out on our own because we felt like the parents weren't given enough information with just mailing a book with the program. So she wanted to provide a newsletter. So one of the main differences that we provide in our service, besides just an age-appropriate book, is we provide our Leap Into Books newsletter, which has questions, vocabulary, and activities that are directly specific to the book. So if your grandson gets Goodnight Moon, the questions, activities, and vocabulary are going to be directed to Goodnight Moon. But if your grandchild happens to get, I'm Dirty, which is about a little excavator, then all of that information inside is going to be about that particular book. So we produce 8 newsletters every month to go with the books that we send out. We send out a welcome book for any child that's new, and we send a graduation book for any child that's graduating out of the program at 5. And then all the age groups in between, they each have their own book that's mailed out every month, and so we produce a newsletter to go with each of those books as well.
So just step back a little bit. The Ferst Readers is if I remember correctly, a book a month from birth to 5 years old. Is that correct?
That is correct. At no cost to the family, we'll mail an age-appropriate book along with the newsletter to anybody that's birth to 5 years old, and it doesn't matter when they register. They can start anytime during the year.
So dive into the motivation of why it's important for a newborn, a 1-year-old, to get a book a month.
Well, research shows that the more words you hear, the earlier on in life, the better your background knowledge and vocabulary will be. So what we try to do is once you know that books are in the home, that's actually more important than a father's education level. It's the number one predictor of school success because they have access to print. The reason why it's important is a lot of parents don't know what kind of books to buy. If you were to hand somebody $5 and say, go buy a book for a child, they'll probably think, oh, Harry Potter's good. Well, it is good, but not necessarily for a child who's birth to 5. So we provide that access to books that are actually age appropriate. And we do that through our book selection committee each year. We have a group of panelists who are librarians, retired educators, people in the education field. We have college professors, we have literature majors, and we have some parents and grandparents who are participating in the program. We have all of them review books every year, and they approve whether these books are age appropriate or even appropriate for our program. And so a lot of them get kicked out and they don't get access. And then we rotate about a third of our inventory off every year so that it's new books every time for a new year.
I gotcha.
And they're not getting the same book in the same time, especially if a family has 3 or 4 kids. You don't want the exact same book at the exact same time of the year with the exact same newsletter coming in, because they've already seen it. So we try to make it very different and exciting every month.
So now you mentioned that ORMC has been partnering with Ferst Readers since 2016. So Dewey, talk a little bit about how we became aware of the program and how we've gotten involved.
Well, we became aware of the program with our general manager, Mr. John Middleton. He was at a meeting or somewhere and heard about this program and came back to our member services manager at the time, which was Gary Strickland, and he says, Gary, I think this is something we need to become involved in. So Gary started reaching out, and come to find out at that point in time, Miss Robin was actually living down in Amelia Island. So
okay. The
founder of this program. So in that, we scheduled a lunch meeting with her and talked with her and found out what motivated her and led her to start this program, of course. And it was just kind of a buy-in. Our general manager loves this program. He has never questioned anything about this program. When I've approached him since 2016 and asked for this or this to support Michele and her cause with Ferst Readers, and has just been a strong thing. We started out with just the Nassau County chapter. Mm-hmm. And we have migrated and started some new chapters in our service territory. And
well, I've been with you with some of those kickoffs.
Yes, there you go.
It's been exciting.
It has just been a blessing. And to back up what Michele said, it has, to get these kids and be able to read and to go and make these presentations on some of these new chapters, such as we did down in Charlton County, to see those kids with a book. I mean, some of those kids, they've never had their own book, and just to see that in their eyes, to this is theirs now, has been a great thing, and that's where we're at. We have continued to support it, and every time I've asked our management team and as well as our board of directors, they have never questioned or asked me anything about it, because I think they know and see, and with my reports when I turn this in, and to say we've opened a chapter in Baker County, another service territory down in Florida, and to put those kind of messages out there and give those reports, it has been a truly one of those things that we have invested money in that has really blossomed.
So so I know it started, ORMC helped get the Nassau County chapter going, and we've also assisted with Baker.
Well, after Nassau, we finally got together and said, why aren't we doing Brantley?
Yeah.
So Brantley was an instant match, and we actually started with Head Start there.
Yep.
So it's great. And we know that 61% of low-income homes don't have an age-appropriate book in the home. And Brantley County actually is one of those places they consider a book desert, where there just aren't a lot of books accessible. We partner with the Family Connection there, and we actually can provide free books for the free little libraries there as well. So we've been, trying to really help out grow the program in Brantley, but we're also in Charlton, Glen, and Baker, Florida. So we're really spreading out.
Now, Dewey, you talked about the fact that it's been something that John really supported from the get-go and has been applauded continuously. But, I mean, the truth of the matter, this goes to the root of education, is among our founding.
Our principles of the cooperative family, the education. And I want to just slightly address what Michele has said here about, because some of our listeners may be from Ware County, and Ware County has a chapter. So let's not, I don't want our Ware County consumer members to think that we're skipping out on you, because there is a chapter over there. And if you have questions about it, please reach out to me. I can send you to that person that's kind of over the Ware County chapter in that area. So
Michele, talk a little bit about how the program connects with the families it's trying to reach. I know that basically it is open to any child birth to 5 years old, but you are obviously targeting at-risk or low-income families, because as you mentioned, 61% of them don't have an an age-appropriate book in the home. So, and I'm sure it's different county by county, but talk about how you get your inroads into these households and start connecting with the families. How does First Readers do that?
Every county is different. I'll start with that. Ware County is one of our counties that has gone strong from the get-go. They are very independent. They don't need a whole lot of help. So they are very strong, and they are well-founded in their community, and everybody really knows about them. So that's always a great thing. With Nassau, when we partnered up, we were just starting out, and so the money helped. It was like seed money. It helped get us going.
Sure.
And we ended up eventually partnering with the hospital there. And so we were registering the babies born at Baptist Nassau.
Okay.
With Baker and Brantley we basically go to daycare centers there. And the reason why is because we know exactly how many children are there. And we know exactly how much money we need to raise to be able to send books to children, because a lot of it does focus on how much money you have, how much funding you
Gotcha.
have. So with Glenn County, they have been going a long time, but they struggled keeping a local chapter. And so they had shut down for a little while and then came back. And Okefenokee was really important about getting us back going there. And now they're partnering with not only Head Start, but like the school system there to get books to the pre-K students. So as soon as they hear, once the ball gets rolling, people want to jump on board. No one wants to jump on a sinking ship. They all want to jump off. So when the ship is going right and everything's going well, then everybody wants to get on board. And so right now, all of these chapters are doing very well, and they're able to even expand outside of those centers and register a few here and there. So we depend on our local contacts to help us build that reputation within that community.
So, I'm sure there's always potential for more. So, we're doing very well. Like you said, Ware's very self-sustaining, well-funded. Glenn, ORMC recently helped get back going. And it's based on money as terms of how many students you can reach. So in each of the counties that you're working in right now, where do you see, is there still potential? Is there growth opportunities? Are there more kids you would like to reach?
Absolutely. So I brought some stats, and I'm going to read them off the paper, so I apologize. I don't know all of them. But in Brantley County, we're serving 18% of the birth to 5 population right now. Oh, wow. In Charlton, they are serving 50% of their population. Glenn is serving 14%. Of course, they're a massive county.
Right.
Sure.
Nassau County serving 22%, and Baker County serving 4%. So there's always room for improvement.
There's lots of potential.
Yeah. And a lot of it is that we depend on our local community action teams to actually be the boots on the ground, is what I call it. If I go into a county and say, hey, this program's great, we need you to donate, they're like, who are you? But when they know somebody and trust somebody locally, then they want to get on that bandwagon and help out. So we could always use help with like volunteers.
Okay.
And some of that can be not only just raising funds or getting funds raised, but it's working with like the centers. So if they were in Charlton County or Brantley County or even Baker County, they love to have people come and read at the centers when they're open, of course, when COVID's not rampant. But they love to have people come in. So when the books arrive, they can contact them and say, hey, the books are here, and they can go read. And the kids are just like, they're so excited to, one, have somebody different that they see every day, and then to have somebody read the story. And when those books arrive at the centers, it's a little different because it's not arriving at their home, but they're hearing that story read before they go home. And if a parent is struggling as a struggling reader themselves, they may not be able to read the story. But what it does is that child goes home, and if they have the big red barn, then they can say barn and red and horse and neigh, and they're going to kind of initiate the conversation. Together. Exactly. So it's not necessarily that you have to read the story. It's providing that background knowledge of just talking about the pictures. If you're talking about the pictures with a children's book, you're probably going to be close to what the story is.
Sure.
So, that's the main thing, is getting that bond going with the parents, because you want the parents to bond with their children. You want them to connect with the story and then build that love of reading before they go to school. And then when they go to school, they're like, hey, I know that story. I have that book at home, or I heard that at school, and if they see it at school and at home, you're building that bridge of they're immersed with that story. They see it everywhere. And so it makes it easier.
Dewey, talk a little bit about why First Readers is the epitome of the type of program that the co-op likes to support just in general relative to our founding principles. I mean, yes, education is, but from a community-wide perspective, talk a little bit more about how that fits in with our mission, because it is so much more than power, as we often talk
by
about.
all means, and Michelle hit on that, on the poverty levels in some of our communities we serve. Because of Okefenokee, and we do serve these counties and the two different states, we serve most of the rural population
Right.
in all of these counties. We don't serve the cities, if you will, the city of Brunswick, the city of St. Mary's, or the city of Kingsland, even though we may have a few accounts in there. And sometimes, nowadays, times have changed where mom and dad work.
Yeah.
Used to when I was a young child, that was not the case all the time. But now it's moms and dads working, they're gone. And being able to get a book and being able to, one, read it to you to start at birth, and to grow that vocabulary, because I think we do struggle. And I think we do struggle in our smaller communities that we serve with the educational options, such as having the books at home to read. And of course, I mean, it's proof. Statistics show that the more you read to a child, or the more they get involved in reading, their intelligence level grows.
Yeah.
And we just want to be part of that and helping our communities. It's more than just sending electricity to your home. We want to help and better each one of our communities that we can. And this is kind of a little off subject, but if we can get this child reading, and at the end of the day, they say, well, hey, when they're a teenager in college, say, Okefenokee helped get me some books, and they're studying to be an engineer, but in college to be an electrical engineer, they say, well, let me reach out to Okefenokee, because we're always looking for those homegrown folks to come back, and sometimes that's a struggle to get those people back into these small communities when they seek out a professional degree. So, but this I've been dealing with Michelle this whole entire time. It's been a great program. It has touched me to see some of these kids and go into some of these places, and to be able to watch, to smile on these kids' faces.
Sure.
And
they do get very excited,
and they're. You can support individually. If you want to buy a book for your grandchild and do that, you can do that. And there's all kind of options out there for folks. My daughter's in college now, and I'm sitting here, and she always got read to.
Sure.
She loved to get.
As did mine.
She loved to go to bed and me or her mother read her a book.
Sure.
Or she'd come crawl up in your lap during the day and read me a book. And she's got a very strong vocabulary. She impresses me. I know that's my child, but she just impresses me because of the vocabulary she has, because I sat back and think when I was 19 and 20 years old, I didn't have that same strong vocabulary that she does now. And I do know that electronics, but get these electronics out of their hands and let them read a book. So
well, and I think that's the key. A lot of times when we talk about education and supporting education at the co-op, we're talking more about scholarships, youth tour, more
Yes.
of the kids going into college. So
STEM funding, those type things. Yeah.
And this is just kind of starting at a lower level to build on as time goes on. Like you said, it's not just about the educational foundation; it's about the community foundation. In a rising tide brings up all boats, so to speak.
Yeah.
Similar.
And we've had people in these communities, and a lot of times when Michelle and I have spoken, when we first get involved in Baker counties or the Brantley counties or the Charlton counties, we already have those contacts with some of these people. And Michelle says, "Well, hey, let's look at going to Brantley County." Well, who do we need to start with? And she may ask me, who's somebody or what organization can we look at and maybe helping us? And I do know that we've got a couple of folks in Brantley County that are very strong supporters of this, that individually, not company or industrial, if you will, but just individuals that they believe these same values that Michelle and I believe, that put a book in their hands and it's going to benefit that child later on.
Well, so I guess a couple questions. Obviously, statistics show that more words you hear, the more literate you become, not only as a child, but then as an adult. But how do you know in the local sense, in the immediate sense, you're being successful. That's one question. And then another question is, I'm guessing you've probably had families who have had children graduate through the program and then have a brother or sister behind. And talk to me about that a little bit.
So we are working on developing, keeping in contact with our graduates to see how they go. We do have several counties who are tracking who were first reader participants, and they're working with their school systems to find out how they're doing in school.
Right.
Okay.
And they're going to be preparing those stats for us and sharing those with us, which is
Awesome.
really great. We do a parent survey every year. And so I have some quotes and stuff from our parents
okay.
from all of our counties that we work with. One of them said, "The books are awesome. We both learn something new when we get a new book." And I think that's great.
That's
It's not
fabulous.
just the parent, but not just the child, but the parent learns something. So that's great. We have a lot of parents that'll say, "You send books that we wouldn't normally pick out, whether it be at the library or at a store. You send something, and now it's our favorite. Like, we wouldn't have chosen that in the store on our own."
Right.
And a lot of parents, you have to think, especially, after 2020 and the debacle of COVID and all of that,
Sure.
a lot of parents struggled financially. They wanted to keep a roof over their head, food
Food
on the table, that
yes.
kind of stuff. And parents shouldn't have to decide on, should I buy milk or medicine, or should I get this book? Obviously books are going
Right.
to take a back seat. And a lot of times, even with grant funding and that kind of things, especially during 2020, they all shifted focus and went to food and
Of course.
and electric and all of that, because all of that was very important and we understood that. But I think a lot of people, because we had been going for 20 years, realized, well, they could still get a book. And a lot of parents over that time during that 2020 said, it was so nice to get a book. And the kids were so excited. They weren't going to school. They couldn't go to the library. The
Right.
libraries were closed.
Closed.
There was nothing. And so that was the opportunity to have something new.
New,
It
yeah.
was theirs. They weren't getting to go to school, but they could open it up and bond with their child after a long, hard day,
Sure.
and things are stressful, but they get to gather around. And even if the parent couldn't do it, you had older brothers and sisters who weren't at school. So now they're having the ability to read with their brothers and sisters, which helps them with comprehension, fluency, their vocabulary
Right.
development and how
Yeah.
smooth they read. So there were a lot of positives of the program being able to continue through 2020.
Sure.
That families told us, and that was really great. 63% of our families read every day, which is great.
Wonderful.
We have one that says that they read together more often. Their child's excited when a new book arrives, and the child looks to look at books instead of picking up a toy. Instead of, they'll go and choose a book to look at because the books are available. And that's the number one thing. Are they even there? Are they available for them to use? So that's important. And I feel like that's like our biggest win is just having them there, and they know it's the right thing to be reading. And we know we don't have political agendas or religious agendas. Our books are just good, solid stories. And we look for STEAM books. We look for rhyming. We look for alphabet and
That's
counting.
right.
And we want all those things, classic tales, anything that can build them up before they get to school. And then when they get to school, I know that,
That's
Sure.
and that's a confidence builder.
That's right.
Well, and so one of the things that, we've talked about, or I've talked about the last year or so, which we're going to kick off in the new year, is our OREMC Storytime in partnership with Ferst Readers. So I'm starting to gather, and I had previously, but I'm starting to gather a list of employees and board directors and foundation trustees, all of which are willing to read a book on camera, and we're going to release those one a week on a Sunday afternoon just to kind of help elevate the profile of our partnership. And to promote Ferst Readers, because I think, as you've indicated, you're reaching, in some cases, a good sized percentage, but there's still a lot of opportunity. And so, what is it Ferst Readers needs mostly at this point to grow within the communities that ORMC serves, What are you looking for most? Connections, funds, a combination of the two?
I think a combination of the two. It'd be great to build our community action teams with volunteers. I think that's great because the more we have connections within the community, the easier it is. The more we have people on our team that are saying, "Hey, this is a good program. You need to be a part of it." That helps build it. We don't spend a lot of money on advertising and that kind of thing, so it's word of mouth for us most of the time, unless the local paper puts something in or something like that. So I would say volunteers would be one, and each of these communities could use volunteers. The second thing is, if they could sponsor a child, it's $36 a year to sponsor a child. That means they get 12 books, 12 newsletters mailed to either their center or their home. And that's the cost of a soda, a month. So if you go to the Jiffy store and you buy a soda, that's the cost of a book. Sure. And so, most of us, we don't even think twice. We run in the Jiffy store, we buy a soda, a bag of chips, and we're getting gas and, we do all those things. And I'm not downing the Jiffy store. We all need them. But, the money that you put into something like that, you could actually also be sponsoring a child to encourage them to read and be ready for school.
Set a strong foundation
exactly.
for growth from there.
Exactly.
And we'll continue to be strong champions of First Readers. I want you to be aware of that. And I have not even told Michele this, but it's that time of year. But our board has agreed and voted yes to fund you, like we did in the past, moving into 2023. So I had not even told Michele that as of today. And so, like I said earlier, our board is all for this. I'm for this. I have just seen it with my own eyes that what a program this is, and Michele and I talk we talk often about this program and what we can do to better it. But
well, Dewey, as you know, OREMC gets sponsorship and funding requests for various things all the time.
Pretty much daily.
And so does every other organization or company within our service territory. It is, and there's limited funds to go around. But, as an organization that's chosen to support this, what would you say to our fellow organizations out there who might be looking for a new opportunity or having to make a choice to, look out, reach out, learn more about First Readers and consider that?
And I think some of our fellow corporates, businesses in our communities are just like Okefenokee. I mean, they serve these small rural areas, and I would say contact Michele because I think this is an opportunity, and it's not I grew up my whole entire life playing athletics, so don't think I'm bashing athletics or band programs or anything like that. I'm not. But we get hit up by those programs often. Mm-hmm. And most businesses do not have an issue. They'll support your little league team. They'll support your high school football team or your high school softball team, basketball team. This is a chance to support an educational, to broaden their intellect, to improve on that child when they get to
an investment in
the future.
Investment
in the future more so than just a athletic adventure here.
And all of it's important.
All of it's very important, but we have kids they're not going to be athletics. They're into athletics. They're not going to be in the band or vice versa. Right. And so this is an opportunity to invest in their intellect and their reading capabilities, because I'm telling you, the better you can read, the better and more successful in life you're going to be.
The statistics show that.
The statistics show this. I've dealt with people within our territory that struggled with reading and having to talk with them about bills or whatever on our side of the business. And, you think back and they didn't have these opportunities probably. And so my thoughts to the other businesses in our communities, reach out to me. I can get you in contact with Michele. But this is a great investment in our communities. And I know most of us don't have, like I said, problems with athletic teams. And this is an opportunity to do something besides the athletic team this time. So,
well, Michele, just thinking about what he's talking about, it is a statistical fact that if you have a high illiteracy rate, your poverty rate is high. So if we can alter that,
Absolutely.
your communities are going to be built up. The
Right.
more people are reading and the more, they are having a literacy rate going up, that illiteracy rate dropping is going to help bring your
Poverty
communities
level,
up.
and your poverty
direct
level down.
correlation.
It's a very
Yeah.
big correlation. So I think that's the thing they got to remember is once these kids graduate from high school, whether they go to college or trade school, wherever,
Right.
if they're literate, they're going to have better health insurance. They're going to have a better job. They're going to be able to read all the things they need to read to be successful. And it's not just books to read. There's so much out there as an adult that you have to know how to read and understand.
Well, of course.
All the contracts. I mean, if you don't read them, you're going to get into some kind of trouble, which is why a lot of people are in trouble financially, is they don't read all of the fine print. And so hopefully, if we're bringing them up to read, they'll be able to be more successful adults.
So what's the best way to get in touch with you and First Readers, Michele?
Well, you can always go to our website, firstreaders.org, and it is FERST, readers with an S.org. You can find my email address there. It's Michele@firstreaders.org, but I'm Michele with 2 L's. And you can email me, that's fine, or you can just give us a call at the office, and they'll patch you through because they can get a hold of me.
So like we said, we're gonna kick off 2023 with OREMC Storytime in partnership with First Readers, and those will get released on Sunday afternoons, starting with the first of the year. Various ORMC employees, board directors, foundation trustees will take the time to read a favorite book or one of the First Reader books, because Michele has given us some in case we don't have books. So that's something to look forward to, but that also that this is a program within our service area that has growth potential and is an investment in not only our children's future, but our communities as a whole. Yes. And so I think this has been a very eye-opening conversation this morning, and I thank you for joining us.
Thank you for asking me. I love this corporation. They're great supporters, not only just financially, but just getting the word out in the communities, even before this podcast. I mean, they've just been strong supporters, and so we appreciate that.
Great. All right. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thanks.